A couple weeks ago, I asked who he can trust and how could he trust him. Well, partially this has been answered. When Gamby says at the beginning of the episode, "You have to trust me," he says, "That's just it." I don't think I do anymore.
Welcome to the heart of the stories we tell. My name is Rob, and tonight I will be reviewing
Equinox, the Book of Fate, Episode 7 of Blacklightning. Come on, Equinox and Fate, those are magical characters in DC. I already know before the episode starts we're not seeing either of them, but that's just a tease. Alright, so Blacklightning is going strong, and after last week's episode, I was super psyched, so I can't wait to see this one. But before I do, let me just tell you what I do here. I examine stories, I review them as they come out, and I do Throwback Thursdays on Thursdays, most Thursdays, and then I come up with theories of how and why we tell stories and do theory videos every Sunday. If that sounds interesting, come join our little community and click that subscribe button. But alright, let's talk about Blacklightning. First, let me start with a big thank you to all of you guys who commented last week. First, I guess John Max just said, "Cool, hey, I'll take it." Jovan, as always, gave me a whole dissertation on what he thought, so we'll come back to that. But Omala, yeah, I'm sure I mispronounced that. This kind of reminds me of Black Panther. And at first I was dismissive of that comment. I'm like, oh, why? Because it has black in the name, because it's black characters. But then I thought, no, you know what? This episode really does have a lot to do with what Black Panther has to do about. And I'm not going to go into spoiler territory for it. But one of the main themes is growing up to be your own man, despite what your father did, or because of it. And the fact that we all, in some way, shape, or form, become our fathers. Now, in this case, it's Thunder who's becoming her father, not his son. But there's some thematical links there, especially when you deal with the way pressure specifically sits on black people. I will not even pretend to understand. But I would say that Jefferson being both a teacher and a superhero, and having a daughter who's an activist and a superhero, definitely play a pretty big role in that. So yeah, good eye. It does have a lot to do with Black Panther. As for Jovan, my man, you are absolutely correct. I do believe that's the same actor. I went back on In Demand, and the police officer that let Tobias in is the same one who was smart-mouthing the detective. As for whether or not Jefferson is going to be so happy, again, I would love for him to be like, no, I'm so excited. I have someone to share my life with, and she's going to be awesome. But I get the feeling that that's going to be later. The first thing he's going to do, even though he was totally cool, well, as cool as you can be, with his daughter having sex at 16, and the fact that his other daughter actually kicked the ass of 3 people, I think we're going to see that. But let's throw this up there and get started with this week.
So once again, it's stop. Spoiler time. Ba-da-na-na.
The first, about third of the episode could have been any superhero show on any channel. It really could have been an episode of Gotham. It could have been an episode of Arrow. It could have been an episode of Flash. And normally, since, I like these shows, I really do, that would be a compliment. But I have to say, Blacklightning has been so far above the average superhero show that the first third felt a little bit like a letdown. We had all the normal things. Oh wait, does the cop know his secret identity? He said something? No. Does the superhero feel bad about the people that gets hurt? Yeah, even though he's really trying to save them. And most importantly, oh look, there's a love interest that potentially is disregarding the idea of the person being a hero. Yeah, we still got the connection between these guys and the whole Gamby not being trustable stuff, which I still don't fully get what's going on with him, how much he had to do with the grandparents disappearing, or the grandfather disappearing, and of course, Tobias's immortality and super strength and what it exactly means, and of course, whether or not this green light is actually something he could have done something about back in the lab days. All of those things are the sorts of things that you kind of expect from a superhero show. But once we really got into it, there was some pretty cool stuff too. Like I guessed, when Anissa comes in and is all like, you can train me, you can help me be a better hero, he's like, no, don't go out, don't use your powers, you were reckless, you were this, you were that, even though, as Blacklightning, he's done every mistake he just accused her of. I do agree destroying the Confederate statue was reckless, and being reckless when you have powers is a much bigger problem than when you're reckless without. And I also agree she does need someone to point her in the right direction. If I trusted Gamby a little more, if Pierce did, I would think that he would be the better mentor than Blacklightning himself. Blacklightning can show her how to fight. Blacklightning can show her what it means to have powers, but I like Gamby being the one pointing them in that direction. Now, at the same time, I have to say, I kind of hoped that when she walked out and we lingered on him for a second, that he'd have one of those big cheesy smiles like he did when she was defending Blacklightning a couple episodes ago. But there are good reasons not to trust Gamby at the same time. Let's just start with the fact that he goes to speak with Madame Eve and talks about the ecosystem they've created. Imagine if Blacklightning caught Tobias. Imagine if Tobias talked to Blacklightning. Yeah, well, what sort of environment have they created? A pretty crappy one, if you ask me. Maybe Gamby is just playing the bad hand he's been dealt and is trying to help as many people that he cares about. But at the same time, working with this snake, and trust me, that's a good term for her, is just a problematic thing. And I really don't like that level of problematic in my allies for my superheroes. Although, I do dig the conflict that brings up, and the whole concept of how that's going to play out. But having said that, Gamby's a bit of a badass. When he does his whole shadow routine with the mask and the big heavy trench coat, and I think he had a shotgun at first and then pulled out the pistol for the up-close work, but when they send a cleaner, he is quite the cleaner. Now, having said that, let's talk about family for a second. So, Anissa and her dad aren't getting along, and her sister picks up on it pretty easily. In fact, their little breakfast was kind of hysterical. If she's going to be able to pick up on things that quickly, and the other two are going to be that bad at covering, their secret identities aren't going to last very long. Now, having said that, they do also talk, Pearson, his ex-wife, about testing her for the metagene as well, because let's face it, if one daughter inherited powers, and again, way back when I said, in the comics, they both have powers. Hers take more after her father, and she has lightning powers, although a different sort of lightning powers. She can become electricity, which is a pretty cool ability that so far Blacklightning has not developed, comics or show. Of course, we also had a question of who else those cleaners were going to go after, and they don't go after the family just yet, because that deal holds. But they go after the editor, Mr. Poe. And now that I say the name out loud, there's part of me that wonders if there's some sort of reference to Edgar Allan in there. But the editor was hit and run while riding his bike. Such a random crime. And since you can't see me doing the air quotes, I'm doing air quotes to all that. Almost immediately after that revelation, though, comes the exact reverse of what I thought was going to be the case. Alright, so Thunder wants to be Thunder, everyone knows that. But good old Mom's the one that remembers and brings up this story about how stubborn she was when she was learning to walk. She kept falling and crying and getting right back up and trying again and again. And that she fears that's what she's going to do with the superhero. Sooner or later, she's going to go back out there. And when she does, if she doesn't have training, if she's not ready, anything could happen. And with that, we've got our superhero team. Of course, she still has that stripperific costume on. And we all know she's getting a better one. Because, well, it was in the preview. And we all know a certain tailor is probably the one that makes it. Mommy asks a favor, and I think we all know what that favor is going to be. Although, was I alone in thinking Gamby was a little too excited to explain what he was putting in that suit? Alright. So, then comes the ending of the episode. And with that, we're going to have to switch all the way back to the beginning and talk all about what Tobias has been going through. First of all, Tobias realizes that green light is a problem. And there's part of me that wonders if every drug dealer in the world doesn't realize that the drugs they're dealing are poison. I mean, yeah, I'm sure that if you only sell pot, you're kind of like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. But by the point you even get to stuff like Coke, I mean, that stuff's pretty bad for you. All right, so our little albino starts his own little fight club just to try to put himself against big badasses to see how tough they are. And part of the reason he recognizes the green light's a problem is because he realizes that the guy he was fighting, who was able to stand up to him, was on green light. Now, then his partner's the one that gets killed by Gamby, and he sends him a message by leaving a little coffin on his chest that has the dust of someone's bones, going back to the whole thing that uh that she was told about. Oh, well, people would grind your bones into dust to use as magic. All right. So Gamby sent a message that in no way, shape, or form would trace to him, but instead goes back to Miss L. Then he puts a contract out on. And where did those lightning pulse lasers come from? But whatever those things were, I mean, obviously they're there to frame Black Lightning, but that means like just crazy. And I really thought that it was the beginning of what we were going to see for Little Miss Cobra here. But nope, because she dies. She dies hardcore, but she dies. And with that, Tobias and Black Lightning's fate are sealed. Because now, Black Lightning really is guilty of killing someone. Well, at least aiding in that by negligence. And that was Tobias' sister. But the cops are going to go after him for the murder he didn't commit. But we end the episode on the family note. Jefferson goes to Anissa and is all like, all right, I'm a hypocrite and I mess up. And sometimes you're going to mess up too. She's like, no, Dad, you're not a hypocrite. Yeah, he kind of is. But you know what? He recognized it and he's working on it. That alone makes this 100 times better than any episode of Arrow ever. Well, I think all these episodes are better than Arrow, but once again, we have the beginning of the team up. I can hardly wait to see how that plays out, along with whether or not any other heroes might show up to hunt down the now murderous vigilante. I'm really enjoying this show. I'd love to hear your thoughts, especially if you can make me see this from a different point of view. And as always, Jovan, I hope to hear what your thoughts were tonight, and everyone else's, so leave them down in the comments. But before you do, hit that thumbs up button. And if you haven't already, share this video with someone, and click that subscribe button, because we're kicking into high-octane superhero mode, whereas Black Lightning is about to go all sorts of places. And I'd love for you to be part of the community as we discuss how and why we tell stories, especially stories like Black Lightning. Alright, I hope you all have a good night, and thanks for walking with me through the heart of the stories we tell.